I think the thing is, he had limits that first time. He had people over the top of him, whether that was BBC drama or just the BBC in general, basically having a close eye. It feels like that first run.
Well, he wasn't. I wouldn't go so far as to say that he was afraid of Mal Young, the exec producer.
Yeah,
but Mal Young was immensely powerful, even compared to where Russell is now. That man, he was the guy who, throughout the 90s, if it wasn't for him, the BBC kind of drama output and the way it was scheduled, he basically orchestrated the entire thing. He refined Casualty, created Holby City, and they became those sort of big power blocks, didn't they? One was on midweek, one was at the weekend. To revolve those, I think he was exec on EastEnders as well. So he was the guy that everybody went to, and he was involved with stuff on to do with Channel 4 as well. So what's his name? Paul Abbott and Jimmy McGovern. You know, he was on that level, and so Russell, I got the impression, if he didn't fear him, he respected him, and certainly would never have gone against him. Now, I don't think there's anybody that he wouldn't. I think he seems not afraid of Disney. I think he's felt the bite of Disney.
Yeah. Pre-series 1 going out, that's what I'm talking about. This nobody really wanting to challenge him, nobody wanting to give a second opinion, nobody trying to say, well, maybe think about this, Russell, or maybe do it a bit different. I think now, and this is what I did say about Sarah when we chatted, I'm more intrigued about the press tour for Series 2 and the way they're going to handle themselves than even maybe some of the writing, because I just think to see that shift, because I think we're going to see a real shift in their attitude. You're going to
could even be a totally different style of promotion. Will there even be a press tour?
Yeah, I think there's so many interesting questions, which I just think because of how much of a bad job they did the first one, how are they going to evolve? And that's what I'm sort of intrigued about.
Because the first season was kind of American focused, which I think a lot of us sort of expected, but I don't think, I certainly didn't think it would be quite so off balance.
My concern is that for Series 2 has already been filmed without the impact of knowing how Series 1 was going to go down. So now we've got two series that are going to look I feel pretty much the same, without those kind of amendments being made. So I feel as though we've got to kind of bite our tongues a bit and kind of steal in for a bit more of the same, because I feel as though it won't be any different for the next couple of episodes because they've had no opportunity to change anything. I think had they known the feedback for Series 1 and they hadn't made Series 2, I think Series 2 would have been or will be so much different. But because it's been filmed, we're going to just limp home again, aren't we? We're going to do more of the same.
We still don't know who those writers are.
That's why I'm intrigued about the media aspect, because that's something they can change. That's something that they can react.
It's the only thing they can. Yeah.
They can look at the way it's like you've got Wiki there in the background, right? The way the guys on that press tour acted is some of the best press interviews I've seen in years, because it was Jeff Goldblum and Jonathan Bailey. All they did in interviews was just sing and be goofy and be funny and compliment everybody else on the production. Like, if they got a compliment, either of them, within 2 seconds they were like, yeah, but the choreograph was so much work. He really put his all into it. The girls were amazing. Like, every instance, they almost deflected to something else, not to them. And it was such a refreshing thing to see actors not be like, oh, aren't I good? Aren't I amazing? They were like, oh no, like the director, he did all this work and they did all this work and we just did our bit. It was so refreshing. Compare that to Shooty, who's telling people not to watch. Who's saying...
Did either of you ever see him say or do anything surrounding this latest special at all? Because I haven't. I mean, I haven't gone out of my way to look as such. I haven't got a single quote from him. He didn't go on Graham Norton, did he? That was like way back in October, November.
I've only seen, do you know when they do pre-filmed like stuff in the set, like the TARDIS set, asking questions to him, like
Yeah.
everything was pre-filmed, which is what he's been doing for months now, hasn't he, Anthony?
no,
Nothing
no.
live.
Yeah, I mean, the prom was a really good example of that. You know, here was another pre-recorded insert that was shown as live, but was clearly pre-recorded. There's been a lot of that.
Oh,
To me, he doesn't feel like he's been part of this for a while. Although he did turn up for the Christmas screening, the press screening, which suddenly appeared from nowhere. It didn't look very well attended, but admittedly, you could only see the first 2 or 3 rows. But that suddenly came and went, and I don't think we had enough of that like we would have done in previous years. You know, kind of celebrities turning up in kind of Christmas gear and kind of Christmas trees and kind of this sense of, oh, we're at the Christmas Doctor Who Christmas special, can't wait, build up that excitement. And I just kind of think there was none of that. I don't think anybody went
I'd put it down to a reluctance from the BBC to acknowledge or celebrate Christmas, but then they have actually, to be fair to them, in the Christmas just gone, that looked to me, and I didn't see much of it because I haven't got a license myself, so what I do see is down at my mother's, but the Wallace and Gromit idents and all that sort of stuff, that was really Christmassy. It was really lovely. And so you're quite right. You see pictures of them standing in front of some sort of jet black backdrop that looks like the launch of some sort of cologne. You think, well, where's the Christmas puddings? Where's the reindeer? Why is Shooty dressed like that? Why isn't he sort of wrapped up in he wraps up in tinsel the rest of the year? Where the fucking hell are all the sequins now?
And that's kind of
pull your finger out, Shooty.
That's kind of what I mean, Dan. You know, there's been lots of pomp and Christmas around the Christmas special launch.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of that this year.
It felt really flat.
Prime opportunity for him to dress up like a Christmas dinner, and he doesn't bother. What's going on?
Yeah.
I agree with Anthony. I think, like I said, I don't know about this series 3, whether he's going to be in it or not, and I know that's still up in the air. But I just think, I agree with Anthony, it feels like professionally, even if he is in series 3, he's already disconnected himself from the work role almost.
He views it as a vehicle for himself, I think.
Yeah, it's like he will do what he has to. He'll do the Graham Nortons, he'll do the press he has to, but beyond that, he's not interested. And it's like he's already said goodbye, it feels like.
As long as he's working, I don't think Shooty Gatwa cares. And to be fair, I mean, a great deal of actors, and I've not spoken to hundreds, but I've spoken to quite a few now, and a great many of them feel the same way about most jobs that they're in. But you just think when something is the most coveted role on British television, that someone may feel differently.
Oh, no, it's like another comparison with The Lads from Wicked. Like, on the press tour, they all wore, like, clothes which gave homage to the Wizard of Oz. So, like, Bailey, he had
One of them
loads
dressed
of
as a Tin Man.
Well, not quite. But he had.
That's a spoiler, Dan. That's a spoiler.
Yeah, but he was. That's not technically a spoiler for him. But he had loads of tops.
I haven't seen it.
He had loads of tops, and they were all vintage Wizard of Oz tops.
Yeah.
And it's a little thing, but it showed he was like showing his sort of
pride.
He
almost
knew he was in a massive thing, which culturally, I think that's what to me it showed. Culturally, he completely understood what he was stepping into, and he celebrated that in a very subtle way.
I think, Charlotte, it's very revealing that he did Comic-Con, because history has dictated that when the Doctor or companion has left the series, then they do Comic-Con. And that for me was really telling, because you didn't get a whiff of anybody new going to Comic-Cons in the time when I was still going.
Yeah,
you didn't get any new Doctor until they'd finished. So it just feels like he's out of contract.
To be fair to them, the Star Trek people do that. So Sonequa Martin Green and all those characters, while they were doing Discovery, they were doing those signings. But you're quite right with Doctor Who.
I don't think the Doctor Who lot. I just think that when they were out of contract, they did. But that's not to say he could be back in contract to do one more at Christmas to say goodbye. That's my feeling. That's my feeling.
Yeah, like I said, that's how I've sort of got it in my head now. It feels like professionally he's completely disconnected himself, whether he's in a series 3 or not.
Makes you wonder how connected he was and or is in the first place. Because I know he's given an interview where he says that he and I think Chris Eccleston spoke. He certainly spoke privately about it to other actors, because I've been told. But I think he may have even given an interview where he said he didn't really know what he was getting into before he did it. It was just a spur of the moment thing. He'd worked with Russell before. Oh, that job's up. oh, that might be cool. I'll put my hat in the ring, whatever.
Yeah.
And well, neither did McGann. Come to think of it, he was in a similar situation like 30 years ago. But at least because he got a mate who'd done it, I think because he was friends with Sylvester and had been for quite a long time. He had some sort of yardstick, whereas these two guys, for different reasons, it's like poles apart for them.
I've got a feeling that at the beginning he was very connected to this role. He was very up for it. He really wanted to sort of make it his own. And the production team have just stopped him at every opportunity, whether that's not giving him control over his clothes, whether that's other stuff which we don't know about, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's tried to put ideas across at the beginning.
Seems
and
that
he's
way
just
to
been
me.
told no. And then he's like, you can't really blame him, I think, in that case. If you're not being allowed to sort of flex your skill as an actor in a role, you probably would sort of go, right, I'm just going to do my lines then, and I'm just going to do what I have to. Like, I'm not going to...
It's quite fashionable at the moment to slate shoot go all the time, and I get a certain amount of clap back, as they call it, from other content creators for standing up for him in any way, shape, or form. But I agree. I still believe, up to a point, he was very mismanaged, and that he would have probably grown up watching the show. I think he had instincts about how he wanted to do it. It's very clear that he had instincts about how he wanted to do it. And they said, well, no, have you considered doing it like this, or we prefer you to do it like that. And he just went with it. And you think, well, okay, but fair enough. They're his employers, but he's nearly 30. But how I'd look at it is that he's going to work for Russell T Davies on Doctor Who. It's like, would you argue with Alfred Hitchcock about how to make a thriller? You probably wouldn't. This is a guy if you can't listen to somebody like Russell about making a show like Doctor Who with a track record like that, then you can see why he would have deferred to their greater knowledge.
And also,
these guys don't know what they're talking about. Who does?
You've got to think he's quite young still in his acting career. So he's not one of these that's been like acting for 30 years. That's my point. He's been doing other stuff.
I'm running out of excuses that I can make. Not excuses I can make for shooting.
I've got plenty of stuff I can have a go at him for.
I'm running out of the sort of the milk of generosity and days in court to give him.
Yeah, no, I'm getting to the point where I'm just like,
please go.
I'm already starting to think, God, who would I cast? And it's been one series.
Yeah.
Fun enough, I'll probably cast Jonathan Bailey.
Oh, he's too big now. He would be brilliant, but he's too big now.
Yeah, good chance. It's sad, isn't it?
He was in Doctor Who. He was in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I remember.
It's a shame, isn't it, for shooting, or not a shame? He'll be ever known as the Disney Doctor, and that's how I refer. That's how I refer
or the
to
dismal
him.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Oh no, or the crying one, the one that cries a lot.
The Disney Doctor. That'll do. That's what I'll give him.
It's another thing that I do. I try to resist the plastering, the labelling of it as Disney Doctor Who, because I think that the problems have been the problems with it have been amplified by Disney. Absolutely, everything that was bad they have made worse. Everything that was difficult they've made harder. But I feel to label it all as Disney Who kind of lets Bad Wolf and Russell off the hook. It may play better on thumbnails and things like that, but I think that the crux of the matter is a lot more worrying than that.
Yeah, I think the thing is, there's stuff that Russell already had tendencies for, but in this first run, some of the sacchariness, some of the sort of really quick resolutions to stuff, which was already there, but now because of the Disney connection, people are blaming Disney for it, and it's like, no, he was doing this before.
Those were Russell's natural inclinations anyway.
He's always had those, like, people trying to blame Disney for the singing. It's like, no, you could see Russell probably was desperate to get more singing in the first time, and he just got told no. Do you know, like that?
No, we haven't got the budget for 30 pairs of tap shoes, Russell.
No. See, with hindsight, I think it should be, because of his availability, and he was not there for so many episodes. And they had to write round the fact that he wasn't in them, and he was really obvious. So we never really got to know him until toward the end. I think we got to know him a little bit more in Joy to the World, I have to say, because having doing this podcast, Dan, you've made me watch it twice. You bugger.
I've watched it twice as well.